Hello, experiential learners. It's Steve. I hope that you're doing well. We're going to focus on this week feedback and evaluation. And for some of you, your internship might be one of the first experiences, or at least the first professional experience where you're being supervised, you're working with a variety of different colleagues and such. So it can have its stressors and anxieties as such. So we're going to talk today about strategies for approaching feedback. So part of this course is that you will have a mid-semester and final performance evaluation. And the purpose for that is to really get you thinking about what feedback is and how it can be used constructively and such. Before we really get into that, though, I wanted to talk briefly about your site supervisor. So I don't think interns sometimes utilize their site supervisor as well as they possibly could. And site supervisors are, of course, your professional at your internship host site. They may be a rookie, they may be a veteran, but regardless, they are a tremendous source of learning and information for you. So it's of utmost importance that you work to build effective relationships with your site supervisor, and not just your site supervisor, but also your fellow colleagues at your internship site. You know, success in the workplace is not a solo act, is how I kind of look at it. It requires you to work with a variety of different people to get the job done. So that's the biggest reason of all, to really utilize your site supervisor and your colleagues. And we have to emphasize and be realistic, though, that relationships take time to develop. So you have been in the internship now perhaps for about a half a semester, so you probably have been getting to know your site supervisor better, getting to know your colleagues a little bit better, even if you're in a virtual internship. And it still needs to be nurtured and cultivated, that relationship. So it's kind of a never-ending point, I guess, is how you can look at relationships in general, that they should be ongoing in terms of their growth and development. Now, I've been working with interns at Maryland now for roughly 9 to 10 years, and I've seen or heard a lot of different types of supervision out there from the interns in terms of how they're being supervised. So we want to focus a little bit on some of these. So up top there, you see the routine and structured versus the fluid and flexible. You may have a site supervisor that's very by the book, that has all their ducks in a row, so to speak. That would be a very structured site supervisor. Or you might have somebody who's a little bit all over the place, that is a little bit more flexible, kind of goes with the flow, so to speak. Another characteristics of intern supervision would be the fast-paced versus laid back. So sometimes you'll have a site supervisor that's a little bit more intense, I guess is the word to use, in terms of how they approach their work, in terms of how they approach the office environment and such. And on the flip side, it could be the complete reverse, where you have a supervisor who's very laid back, who kind of has a very hands-off approach to supervision and management. Down at the bottom right corner there, it's a little bit covered by the camera there, but we're looking at detail-oriented versus somebody who's looking at the full picture. So you may have a manager or a leader or a supervisor who's very well tuned to the details of projects and things, or you might have a supervisor who's very big picture. They're kind of looking at the sum equals the whole of its parts, or the whole equals the sum of its parts, rather, and such. Or you could have actually a mix of both of those. You're going to find supervisors who, of course, are task driven, that are more, I guess, concerned with the science of your internship. So that would be more of the mechanics, the productivity, organization, things like that. versus the process-oriented supervisor who's going to be leaning more towards the relationship focus. So building relationships with the staff, building the relationships with you as the intern. There'll be varying degrees also in terms of the willingness for your supervisor to feel the need to share information with you and what types of information that might be. And a lot of that does depend a lot of times on the setting in which the intern is working. And finally, autonomy versus micromanagement. So here we're looking at kind of the total freedom perspective where you've gained competence, you have those competency skills, you're in that competency stage of your internship, and your site supervisors feels comfortable kind of giving you projects or tasks to perform, and they don't necessarily need to be standing over your shoulder every second, which is more of what the micromanagement is. So probably from this quick discussion here, you can see, hopefully you can see a little bit of your supervisor or manager in these different descriptors or characteristics that we've just reviewed. And there isn't one set all be all correct way to supervise. I would venture to guess that each of your supervisors has a variety of these different types of factors and characteristics for which they lead. Now, as I mentioned earlier, there are going to be 2 points in the semester where you're going to receive a formal evaluation from your host site supervisor. That'll be at the midterm, which is right about now, versus the final performance appraisal at the end. Both of these evaluations are designed to provide you feedback, to kind of get you back on course if there's anything that needs to be redirected in terms of how you're performing and such. So it's looking at your development as an intern, it's looking at your character, your approach to your work, all of those things. And you'll find from me that I'm pretty good about providing you actual screenshots of both of these evaluations just before you're going to receive the evaluation from your site supervisor. Now, I don't ask that your site supervisor meet with you to go over these evaluations. They're both Qualtrics surveys, so that might be a little challenging for them to do because they'd have to sit down with you while they're doing the Qualtrics survey and such. But nonetheless, you may want to give your site supervisor a heads up that they can expect these. The midterm one will be coming right about now, and then the final one, usually we send out a link usually a week or 2 before the semester ends. At the end of the semester for your final performance appraisal, I really put it into kind of a nice design to give you the feedback. We're asking questions like, would they hire you if a position opened up that was a good fit? Um, things again about your skill sets, what are some areas that you really improved upon? Is there anything you still need to work on? How did you make an impact or how did you contribute to the organization? All very valuable information that you can use as you move forward then into the next step in your experiential learning journey. So why again is feedback important? It's an opportunity, we already mentioned this, for growth and development. We should never be kind of happy with the status quo. We should always want to improve and be willing to kind of challenge the process a little bit and take some risks to get out of our comfort zone a little bit and try out or test out some new projects or skill sets that we're not as confident about. It's also an opportunity for dialogue. It's an opportunity again for you and your host site supervisor or colleagues to have some dialogue about how you're doing, how you are contributing to the organization, acknowledgement for maybe some things that you're doing really well, maybe again some constructive criticism for some areas that you want to improve upon. And then finally, it's an opportunity for learning and empowerment. I want to see these evaluations truly empower you, put you, if you're not already in the driver's seat, in week 7, the midpoint of the semester, we want to make sure from this point out that you're feeling empowered to do some very meaningful work at your internship. Sometimes interns get a little nervous about the process of supervision itself because, again, depending on the experiences, life experiences, and work experiences you bring to your internship, this could very well be the first time that you're being professionally supervised. So there are some anxieties that come with that. There can also be some resistance to learning and change. So if I'm the person that's getting the feedback, you're my supervisor, you're giving me my feedback, there can sometimes be some pushback by myself that, oh, well, I don't feel I did it. I don't feel that's how I performed and such. So the resistance to learning or feeling that we can't change or don't want to change, I guess is the better way to put it. And then kind of more of a defensive posture that I just kind of did a little scenario there for you where you're pushing back a little bit. You're kind of taking the feedback personally rather than an opportunity for that growth and development. Some things to think about as you are in the evaluation process, as you get the feedback from your supervisor, back from me, it'll come from me, is to have an openness to that feedback, as I was just alluding to. And you want to use it to try to change and transform yourself in your internship. Internships, again, are such great opportunities for test driving a career path. While you're an intern, I always will say this, is also a great opportunity to make mistakes that don't have serious consequences. When you get to my point where I'm at in my career and you start making a lot of mistakes, that's when it can have some consequences. But as an apprentice, as a young professional, as an emerging professional, this is the time when you should have some trial and error moments, have some times where things don't always go quite as planned. And then you're using that feedback, you're learning again from that feedback on how to apply it to put the put the boat back on course, so to speak. The constructiveness is important too, to view it always as constructive. I don't think in my 9 years supervising intern have I ever really seen a host site supervisor personally kind of attack an intern in any way. Every time I've seen feedback that's more on the here's an opportunity for growth spectrum, it's always been very constructive in that regard. You want to really focus on managing and building those relationships with your site supervisor and your colleagues. Again, even in the virtual internship environment, you can still do that through all of the technology that's out there. And then finally, having a deepened sense of self-awareness, knowing yourself, knowing how you learn best, knowing how you're managed best. It's something to be said with having a discussion with your host site supervisor, perhaps about how you learn best or what type of management and supervisory style you're accustomed to and things like that, as long as you do it in a pretty tactful way. And then I always encourage interns and experiential learners to really do kind of a self-assessment. So even though we're asking your host site supervisors to look at you as an intern to provide you all that feedback, it's important that you as well do a self-assessment as to how you are performing and developing in your internship experience. So I hope this was helpful for you. I'm sorry it was a little bit long-winded. I may be asking you to use some of your feedback information in your final project in the mini poster and the YouTube video. So keep all this information in mind as we move forward. All right. Thank you so much for your attention and have a great day.